I apologize if I'm a little less thorough in getting to all the questions in chat today. And some of them, frankly, I can't answer either, so what's the point? But I will do my best to get to them. So without further ado, are we planning to make PvMP available for free-to-play too eventually? No. Is the... when will we get an active Instagram? It's something we've considered, actually. Along with... Yeah, have a seat, thanks. Along with perhaps actually launching Pinterest. I'm not a huge Pinterest user, but I happen to notice that there's a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff on there, and why should we not be there too? So we might actually be doing that within the next couple of months. But if you guys are interested enough, Instagram work on our part, like, you know, we could put up our screenshots there and that, yeah, we could certainly do it. Are there stories, events we'd like to tell that we can't because of the limits of the license? Yeah, that's always the case of everything, you know. My personal story about Gandalf joining the NFL just for some reason keeps getting shot down. So.
Goodness. Be a little tough with no passing.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it could be. See, I could probably get if I had chosen golf, it might have worked. But you know, I chose the wrong sport, so there we go.
Well, if we put hobbits in the football game, I'm sure we'd have a lot of fumbling.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Let me just quick through a few more questions here before I introduce the folks. Are we planning to force more naming rules on the RP server? Not. We're not planning to do a crackdown of it, if that's what you're asking. We have had conversations with customer service and some of the folks in the community. I mean, if you go to the LOTRO forums, you'll actually see that we just asked the Laurelin folks if they were happy with things and unhappy with things, and if they would like us to perhaps do more work. And the result we got from that was, I guess you could say, mixed. There were as many people who wanted us to not change things as there were change things. So given that sort of fallout at this point, I think we're going to leave it about where it is right now. But we're always open to suggestions on that. So if you do feel that, you know, we need to go further, or if perhaps we have gone too far on RP name enforcement on some of those RP worlds, just let us know on the forums and that sort of thing, and we can have a longer term conversation about that. Do we have any in-game events with players in this stream? Yeah, I'll be in-game throughout the stream, probably a little bit later on today. While we're in the, what you might call office hours, I want to get as much of the LOTRO team on as I can. But as the night weans on and the darkness begins to spread across the land, I will be going in-game and doing my best to not crash the servers. Any news on the character avatar improvements? Work is underway, and it's coming. We'll have more information on that as we get probably closer to Bull Roar. Are we going to answer YouTube questions? Yes. Sorry. Any plans for more... I couldn't help myself. Any plans for more hobbies beyond fishing? At this point, I haven't heard of any plans. You haven't heard of any plans to increase further hobbies, right?
I love hobbies.
We all love hobbies. It's just a matter of really... It's one of those things you could never stop making new ones, and some people would be happy, including some of the devs, but then you'd also not be doing other things that we need to do. So it's one of those things that we love that you love them, but at this point we don't really have any immediate plans to expand our hobby system. All right, let me get to some introductions here, because I can't remember your forum name or whatever. Just give me a name.
Yeah. My forum name is Baccata.
Baccata. And when you're speaking, speak into the mic if you would. Like, kind of get, yeah-ish from it.
Move closer to it.
Yes, move closer to it, speak into it. Pretend you're on a radio station here.
Never done that before. So.
Yeah, and also with us is Kim. Do you have a forum name?
Yeah, Drachyn.
Drachyn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, with like a CH, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very cool. All right, so why don't we just kind of talk a little bit about what you guys have been up to here. So I guess, actually, while you just talked, let me talk to you, Drachyn. So you came back to the LOTRO team fairly recently, but you've been a member of the LOTRO team for quite some time as well.
Yeah, I started in 2010 doing...
Get into the mic there.
Doing
just
some
pick it up
quality
if you want. Yeah.
All right, maybe we just move it a
Yeah,
little
there
bit.
you go. Yep.
I started in 2010 working on quality assurance. I've also worked on world design after that, and then I took a break from LOTRO, and now I'm back again, and it's really exciting to be back in Middle Earth.
Yeah, yeah. And so, QA, do you remember the first thing you were asked to test?
Oh goodness, the first thing I was asked to test.
Or the first general thing? Like, did they say, is it like, okay, welcome to QA, you get to do this horrible thing over here? Is that sort of how it works?
No, not really.
No? Okay.
I don't think there is any ongoing horrible tasks, There, mostly I remember the first year a lot of Dunland, which I really liked that area. It was definitely very different from what I thought of, with most of the Middle Earth that, we think of the iconic areas. But it was excellent. Like, I really liked a lot of the design there and running through it, As a tester, it's really interesting because, you play the game in a different way,
Right.
You get to jump around really high and, just tear through mobs really easily, and it's like your own version of the game that you're trying to accomplish goals. But the goal is actually not necessarily to level up, it's to find all the bugs.
Yeah, right. Sometimes people have said, oh, so you just get to play the game a bunch. And it's like, well, I suppose if you define it by, yes, I have a character, I am moving around a game world, I'm playing the game, but it's not like the goals are vastly different. Obviously in the case of QA, you're specifically testing things, so it's things like you need to do a checklist, make sure the things that have changed for whatever upcoming releases work. So you're not just like saying, hey, let's see if I can handle this raid today. It's more a matter of specific goal-focused, testing there. So does it ever feel like playing a game, or is it, because you play obviously games other than LOTRO, or is it really sort of a separate part of your brain that's activating when you're doing that kind of QA work?
Maybe it's a combination because, you do have to take it seriously as a job, and, but yeah, it does feel a little bit like you're in this game world. Like, it feels like you're really, in this Middle Earth virtual world, whether you're testing it or building it, you're kind of a part of that, and it becomes like that secondary home in the same way that a lot of players talk about MMO games and virtual worlds. So, there's a little bit of that, because, you spend at least 8 hours a day, often more than that, during work days in this place. So it does feel definitely a lot like you're home away from home. And that's why it's so exciting to be, back in it from, like, this perspective on the side, because I love being involved in, like, the, processes of bringing this game to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, and by the way, if ever I ask something that is just like, it's fine. It's fine. We'll edit it in post. Nobody will know. No. But I was going to ask, the reason I bring that up, though, is because we often hear in the communities, oh, man, I would love to get my start in the video game industry. And when you do a lot of Google searches and that for it, you'll often see people say, get into QA. That's one of the, quote, easier ways to get into the game industry. So let me ask you, was that sort of how you got your start in the industry? Did you specifically go to QA to get your start in the industry? Or was there some other story there?
Well, this was my second QA game job, so yeah, I did start in quality assurance, and it definitely is a good way to get your feet wet. For some people, it is a full career path as well, because depending on what your goals are and what you enjoy doing, a lot of people are just excited to be involved, and some people, they like finding bugs. Some players like finding bugs too, right?
Yeah, right.
I've been fixing some of those lately. They're coming soon. But, definitely,
So, in your particular case, and we don't need to name names of that, but did you go through, say, a school track, or did you sort of train your way into just sort of a company like Turbine at the time?
Well, like quite a few other people around here, I was actually an English major.
Okay, nice.
There seems to be a lot of interest in literature around here for some reason.
Yeah, right.
How odd.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people in general here have untraditional career paths, I guess, because a lot of us got started in video games industry before there were all these programs at different universities and schools. So, we had what we had, and there's a diverse group of people here.
Yeah.
I did do one of those university programs.
Did you?
So,
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's cool. And it clearly, obviously, worked out for you.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
But I also did start in QA on LOTRO, and that was I started back when we were putting out Anidway, so
Yeah.
I eventually worked my way into design from there.
One of the reasons I do hear people say that QA is a good place to, quote, start, and it's also a very highly skilled job, so it's not just a starter job or something like that. But you get to see the breadth of the development process in a way that, frankly, even I don't always get to see, or something like that.
Mic is not working.
I'm hearing it from my chat here, so. All right, a second. Let me hit pause. Speaking of the mic there, Jacob.
Hey, what's going on, Jerry?
I mean, I am absolutely
Sure.
hearing you through the mic.
Brah. That's fine, that happens. Sorry, I'm stealing the mic from Pinion.
Yeah, you're coming through.
I'm okay.
You're coming through.
All right.
Yep,
All right.
no problem. You get to see the breadth of the development process in a way that, like I don't even see as community. You are learning everything about like how builds go together and how the things are scoped, how timelines work. There's just all sorts of practical skills you learn in a setting like that. And it also, I think, for some folks, helps you get to see how, say, the tools that the content builders are using and all that. So you supplement that with the kind of specific skills that it takes to do that work as well. And that's why we sometimes see, I think, people going from QA into other development positions. So.
Yeah, you pretty much get to see, like, is this what you want to do? Is there something else you want to do? It's a lot of exposure and a lot of resources where you could talk to other people and find out more about it firsthand.
Yeah, as QA, you definitely get exposed to almost every department in the company, so you get a really good sense of every piece of the project.
Yeah. Someone, I don't know if you particularly can answer this question. I can answer it in a very general way. Rabber over on YouTube says, how do we test with different hardware configurations? And we do have some kind of hardware-related things that we do. A lot of it is hardware agnostic in terms of, say, some of the content testing. Does the orc drop the sword? It doesn't really matter whether you're on, a PC or a Mac or what have you. But we do have some sort of, I believe, somewhere in the building here, there's like what called min-spec machine and things like that we use to test some of those things as well. Do you guys have anything further to add to that I can't? Really? No?
I do not.
Okay.
I mean, we also obviously
Yeah.
test the different DX settings. Like, that was a bug we recently encountered in the waste. There was a day file that wasn't displaying properly, but only on a certain DX setting. So that's why it initially went undiscovered, and then we found it in time to fix it for 20.1.
Yeah. This is completely off topic, but I see it coming up a fair amount in YouTube chat. We like your t-shirts, essentially. Can we buy them? The answer is no, not at this time. We also do see some folks that are asking about LOTRO-related swag in particular. Are we ever planning to change that so that you could get some kind of LOTRO t-shirts or that if you were interested? We have nothing to announce right now on it. It's something we've talked about in recent months, but there's going to be a fairly long process before that would be in any sort of state that it might or might not happen. So it's really too early to say, but it's something we've talked about. So never say never on that, but probably not anytime immediate soon. So, all right. So let me turn to you here then. How did you get your start here with Standing Stone Games / you started before Standing Stone, so.
Oh, yeah. Pre-Standing Stone.
And you bring it into the mic. Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Thanks. Yep.
So I've been working off and on LOTRO since 2010.
Okay.
The first thing I did was actually I worked as part of the marketing team doing screenshots, in-game screenshots for the game.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of the loading screens and like, hey, buy Enidwaith, that type of stuff. I did a lot of those shots, especially when we were launching free to play.
Yeah.
After that, I did the sound design for LOTRO for a couple years.
I'm an audio guy, so can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what
Sure.
what is sound design for this? What kind of, how do you do it, basically?
Well, the way we tended to work, MMOs have a ton of sound cues, right? There's a lot of things going on. So we basically tried to hit the big points, casting spells, making sure that your player avatar had all of the right sounds. That's the big thing, is like the player avatar needs to have sounds. Other things, not so much. Like, you don't want a goblin grunting every time it attacks you, because if you have 20 goblins attacking you, you're going to hear a lot of grunts, right?
Yeah, right.
But your player, every time it attacks, your player should make a sound of swinging a sword. So you have to take that things into account. The way we worked with sound is we had a lot of sound effects libraries that we used, and sort of manipulating sounds for our own use. Whether it's, some sort of creaking wheel that we, pitched down and turned into a machine of war in Isengard, that type of thing.
Yes, it's like in many ways similar to movie Foley work, where what matters is what the end result sounds like, not so much what you use to create that sound. And so there's a lot of really interesting things that you hear at the end, and you're like, really? That was a rubber band, for example, or something like that?
A good example, we've all seen Jurassic Park.
See ya. Yeah.
He'll be back. I'm just stealing him. I'm sorry.
Goodbye. I was going to say, with Jurassic Park, right, where some of the dinosaurs are a combination of what? It was a lion and I think like
Howler monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice.
Random things like that, right?
I'm a big fan.
Oh, yeah, you had the Jurassic Park shirt the other day on. Nice. So we used packs, but we also, when we had voice recording sessions with our voice actors, we would have them do a lot of sounds that we would use for avatars and monsters and things like that, which is kind of great to be able to work with the voice actors. Actually, when I was doing sound design, a lot of stuff I was doing at the time was coordinating and working with voice actor recording sessions.
Oh, nice.
That was kind of the big thing I worked on.
Cool.
And then I took a break to work on Dungeons and Dragons Online for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I came back, and now I've been doing content design since 2014 here.
Cool. So this question was for Pinion, but it is just as applicable to your work, and that is from Exogenesis 9 over in Twitch. When you design instance or raid content, do you try to make it with specific class group makeups in mind, or do you come up with, say, the raid and instance mechanic, and then just sort of let the makeup process be more organic to whatever works for that?
Well, I can't answer for Pinion and his raids.
Okay.
But I have made 2 3-mans for the game.
Okay.
And usually what I do for those is I come up with the boss mechanics first. Usually try to create trash skills that either complement or have some sort of lore connection to the bosses. And then from there, in terms of like QA playtesting, we sort of figure out like, what's the optimal group for that? I usually don't go into it with an optimal group. We kind of mold that,
because it's not every group clearly is going to be optimal, and as a matter of fact,
right.
I'm not even sure you could say a majority will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's cool though. So do you find it interesting to just sort of see what the makeup ends up being on it? Because I mean, it's sort of like you design an open-ended puzzle in some ways and then see how people solve it.
Yeah. I mean, that's always kind of the cool part about designing content is, as the design.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's the cool part about designing content. I don't know what the optimal play route is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I am not a hardcore gamer, right? But I love making games, and I love the design challenge and creating puzzles, and seeing how people solve it, how quickly they solve it, and all the different combinations of how how something can be solved.
Yeah. Would you mind naming a name on one of those three-mans?
What?
Can you name a name on one of those three-mans? Someone wants to know one in
sure,
particular.
Yeah. So the most recent three-man I did was Keys of the Harland.
Okay, cool. Another question, and stop me if this is too proprietary or something, but someone's wondering, like, can you get super techie for just a second and say specifically what kind of tools you use when you're doing your content?
Oh, sure. Well, we actually use an internally created piece of software that is called World Builder. We use that in combination with a bunch of Excel files.
Okay.
And that's how we make all our instance content and quests in the game. And we have another internal piece of software that's called Quest Editor, and we use that to make quests. And World Builder to place all of the NPCs and items and all that.
Nice.
It's one of those types of softwares, right, where like I can't really explain the nitty-gritty of it unless I showed people a tutorial, but
sure.
We can't do that.
Well, it has come up not so much on the LOTRO side, but it's come up because there are a lot of creative streamers on Twitch now. There's people who are just painting paintings on that. We were wondering if at some point we might let someone take a crack at seeing World Builder in action there. So
that'd be fun.
It's come up. I don't know that we've ever had everyone sign off on it that needs to sign off on it, but it could happen at some point here too. So I want to introduce someone new here to the table. Pick up the mic and cool. I know you know how to talk into a mic. This is are you still using the same forum name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eldorudo.
Yeah, Eldorudo. Very cool. And you're now with Lord of the Rings Online. You've worked on both of our games over the course of history here. Tell me a little bit. Now, you just came back to SSG here after a little bit of time off, but you worked on LOTRO for quite some time.
So I have worked on both games. I'm back on DDO now, but I got invited to just come hang out with you all. And
right. Yeah.
So yeah, I worked on LOTRO for about 2 years or so, doing content design.
Yeah. And do you remember? It was a little while ago, right?
A few years ago. It's a little hazy, but I do remember. So I came in toward the end of the Rohan expansion and worked on some of the war bands and also just kind of helped out wherever I could, fixing bugs and whatever. Then after that, we did some of the Mines of Moria revamp stuff.
Yep.
So lent a hand with that work. Then after that, we went on to Wildermore and was a big part of Wildermore. And obviously you guys had talked to Chris Pearson earlier. He comes up with some amazing amounts of information and stories. So we took that and built Wildermore off of that. And I know Kim helped out on that as well. And so I got to do a lot with Nurzum. I did the Battle of Shilfig and also the end encounter with Nurzum.
That's my favorite encounter in Wildermore. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I love that one.
I didn't really get much feedback from that, so that's cool. No, that was a lot of fun though, working in that. And then the last thing I did was working in, I have to check my notes, Eastfold.
Oh, okay.
For the next Rohan work, and that was a lot of fun getting to work on that as well. So that's sort of just a sampling of some of the stuff that I was able to work on in my time with LOTRO.
Very cool, very cool. Let's see. Share the standing mic. Well, we'll do that too. Some of the mic is fine. You just got to talk into it. So, but you're doing just fine there, Eldorudo. So. It's a Shure SM, for those who care, it's a Shure SM58. You gotta bring it up close.
Better than the ones I have.
Yeah. You can't, if it's not a good across the table mic. That's really why I was a little quiet there on some of those folks. Will Mordor be as gloomy as Angmar? Is there a possibility for Radiant Skier? Don't know about the Radiant Skier. Will Mordor be as gloomy as Angmar? Well, it is Mordor. but that's something we've thought about, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we've thought about it, and we, spent a lot of time like thinking about like, what are all these regions that we might be doing what are they going to look like? We've sat down, talked with the artists, and basically what we do is we come up with color palettes to figure out, what different areas of the game are going to look like. And one of the things that, we said going forward is Angmar is probably our like gloomiest and most metal place in the game, right?
Metal.
Well, Mordor obviously should be better.
It's like black metal.
Yeah, it should be black metal. Also, it has lava.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, running around a lot of these new areas and testing new things, it feels like, of course you're expecting things to be a bit dark and gloomy in Mordor, but at the same time, there's a lot of beauty in it. There's a lot of unique structures. There's a lot of unique plant life, and I think that, it's really going to knock some people's socks off. And, it's hard to compare it to Angmar because Angmar is like from so long ago, which that also had some great things about it as well. But, I mean, moving forward every year, like, we come out with even more impressive artwork, I think. And we have some really great artists right now.
Nice.
How much can we talk about the word Mordor? And
As far as I'm concerned, you can say anything you want.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
I will take the blame for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say,
Yeah.
a lot of people have a certain preconceived view of what Mordor should look like.
Oh,
and it's,
sure,
and it's
yeah.
the people who've if you've watched the movies, there's an awesome view of this desolate, blasted plains, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have that, but we want to surprise people with Mordor, right?
Yeah.
So it's what you expect, but it's also more than you expect in terms of visuals and terrain variants, flora, fauna, that type of stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Now that I know what you were talking about, yeah, that's a very good point. So answering a couple of questions from chat, why are players discouraged from jumping out of bounds? Because it causes problems for you and others. If you end up outside of the game world, it can be a pain for folks. That's why that is. What will Mordor's endgame content be? You're going to have to stay tuned on that. Sorry. But we are planning a fairly large amount of things there.
We are planning something.
Yeah, exactly right. There's one other question here. A bunch of people are asking about the soundtrack for Mordor. No, we can't talk about that at this time. That process is underway in terms of doing the work we need to do to make an announcement on that. But we can't even hint at anything at this point because it's not signed off by the lawyers. It's not approved by all the people yet. So I know that you guys are chomping at the bit to get an answer about who's going to do music for Mordor, but we just can't say yet because we need to wait for the right things to fall into place and things to get signed and all that to be able to answer that question. Sorry.
We can probably talk about who it won't be, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's true. We talked to Britney Spears,
Yeah.
but no, I'm kidding.
That
I don't
could get
even-
us into trouble too.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So you had actually brought up something interesting about the kind of metalness of Angmar and that. And it's interesting because I'm an old record collector, and I like heavy metal, I like classic rock, and I love my crazy album covers. And it's amazing how much of that stuff has been influenced by the sort of, if not in actual practice, at least in theory, sort of idea of what Lord of the Rings can offer. And I wonder why that. I mean, is it really just because it was one of the first with, wizards and dragons and all that sort of thing? Or do you think there's something specific about Tolkien's world that sort of made it different from some of the other kind of sword and sandal epics and all that sort of thing that were out there at the time?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I think it's more just identifying. I think it's sort of people who are like maybe kind of outcast, because we still see like there's a little bit of stigma attached to being into fantasy stuff. I mean, I guess maybe it's not as bad as it once was, but I don't know. Like I think that also like these metal bands maybe have kind of gravitated towards that because they feel kind of outcast as well. I'm not really sure what that was, but I mean, definitely they seem to go hand in hand pretty well. If you look at a lot of those, especially power metal bands, right? Like,
yeah.
A lot of the epic fantasy adventures. So yeah, it's just a match made in heaven, I guess.
It is. It is. I don't want to take too much of your guys' and gals' time here. Would you mind dropping any kind of final thoughts or hint about sort of what it is you've been up to this week? Without naming like specific names? I know you've been getting ramped up on
I was going to say
the other game.
I just started yesterday again
Yeah,
back
right.
here. So I am refamiliarizing myself with World Builder and reading a lot of documentation. Not much fun.
Yeah. Hey,
I mean, I pretty much already mentioned that I've been testing a little bit in
Yep.
Mordor, and I've also been fixing some of the older bugs that exist, and doing some copy editing. So maybe that's not as exciting to you guys, but
No, it is. It's interesting because it also just really does go to the fact that it's always been the case, but I think particularly under Standing Stone Games here, we wear many hats and we try to let people do the things that they're good at, even if sometimes it may, like you mentioned, copy editing, sometimes falls not directly in line with your formal job title, but it makes sense for you to do it, and we have no problem sometimes crossing those borders and letting that sort of thing happen. So. And anything you want to mention?
So right now I'm working on a bunch of quest content for upcoming update.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you three for stopping by. I really do
Sure.
appreciate it very much, and it's great to have you here.
Happy 10th anniversary, LOTRO.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
Cool.
hype man
Thank
in
you.
the back.
You guys can
Hi, guys.
take off there. And while I've got a second here, let me call up a document. And I know that you guys have been
Hey Tim, why don't you stay?
wanting me
Okay,
to
thanks,
do
Jacob.
this.
Hey, no problem.
So